Hello guys, welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja, and we are taking a look at a tank I just picked up last night. I got 3 battles in this sucker, and I'm already liking it. This is the Type 64, new premium Tier 6 Chinese light tank. And what can I say about this tank? I like it. I've only played 3 battles in it. I've had a really good time. It's a fun little tank. I have on multiple occasions described myself as the worst light tank driver NA, and I think that's slowly changing. I'm not a noob at this game anymore. I got 14,375 battles played, and about another 4,000 in beta, so I've got almost 20,000 battles under my belt, and just now am I beginning to really more get into the light tank aspect of this game. A lot of the battles that I played, especially in probably about the first half of beta, and then for about probably 3,000 battles after release, I basically just wanted to grab a heavy tank and kill. But I'm starting to get a lot more tactical in this game, and my playstyle is getting better, I think, and my technical play is getting better, I think. And one of the huge aspects of that is light tank gameplay. Light tank gameplay is the most technical, it's the most finesse-based. You need to have a really good feel for the map. You need to have a really good feel for the tank. You need to have a really good feel for your opponents. Not just the vehicles that they're in, but what are they going to do in the situation that they're in. And things that are kind of finesse, fine detail, sort of kid gloves, I don't really do that kind of thing very well. I don't do it in real sports very well, and I don't do it in games very well. A great example would be Company of Heroes. I like to play Armored Company. And I like to play Armored Company because then I can build 2 Calliope Shermans, a Pershing, and a horde of giant Shermans and just literally crush everything under my treads. I don't have to worry about microing my infantry. I just have to try and keep my retarded tank pathfinding from having me back up towards the enemy. So that's the way I typically play games. And World of Tanks is no exception. If you look in my garage, you'll see many, many, many heavy tanks. I like big steel. I'm good at driving it. It is usually the easiest. Light tanks, I think, are definitely the hardest part about this game, but they're also one of the most interesting because the tools that a light tank driver has at their disposal are a lot less obvious than the tools that a heavy tank driver has at their disposal. Heavy tank drivers typically have lots of staying power in battle and powerful weapons. Light tanks usually have comparatively weak weapons in every category except rate of fire. They tend to have very, very low staying power in every aspect. And the Type 64 is no different. It's got 580 hit points, no armor, and an open top turret. So an HE hit from anything that this tank can meet could probably, they'll one-hit you. If it's like a tier 7 or like a tier 8 that doesn't have a howitzer or like a huge gun, it might not one-hit you, but it'll probably do something like 400 or 500 damage, leave you on maybe 100 health, and crit everything in your tank. So you would wish that you were dead. The things that light tanks have as assets, though, tend to be mobility and view range. And those two things are a lot more esoterical in their usage. Also, camouflage. So, utilizing your camouflage or utilizing your view range to defeat the enemy is a lot less straightforward than driving onto the 8 line on Himmelsdorf and shouting, "Kill!" and then shooting everybody in the face. So, it's definitely a learning experience for me, and it's a pretty fun one. But let's take a look at this tank. Let's see what attributes we have to go in our favor, and then let's take a look at the third battle I played in this. Granted, it was with amazingly favorable matchmaking, but anyway, it was still really fun. Alright, Type 64, Tier 6 Chinese light tank. I do believe it'll matchmake in with Tier 10s. I'm not 100% certain about that, but it will matchmake up into high-tier games. Tier 8, 9 at least, probably Tier 10. But that's fine, because that's what light tanks do. What do we have to work with here? Well, we got 580 hit points, which is not very much. 23-ton vehicle, pretty light, but it is a light tank. 500 horsepower engine, which is good. Gives us a power to weight ratio of 21.46. Let's just find a couple of other light tanks that I have and look at their power to weight ratio. We're going to skip the Crusader because I don't really count that. Looking for... Okay, we got a couple of fast French light tanks. 35.4 on the ELC, that blows pretty much everything in the game out of the water. And 23.19 power to weight ratio on the AMX 1390. So we have slightly less power to weight than a 1390, but that still means we have a pretty daggone good power to weight ratio. We got a high top speed, 72.4 kph, which is really good. We got a 56 degree per second traverse speed, which is also pretty respectable. We're going to skip over the armor on this tank because it has none, and we're going to add as an additional highlight that we have an open top turret. So, like I said before, HE shells are going to wreck this tank. We're going to skip over the gun for just a minute. We have a 36 degree per second turning turret, which is not that fast, but combined with our traverse speed, it should be fast enough. We have a 390 meter view range, which is pretty daggone good, especially on a tier 6, and a 700 meter signal range, so we can actually keep radio communications with our team, which is important because we're a light tank, and our primary role is vision and radio communications, so these two stats are key. Now, we're going to take a look at the gun. This tank has a decent gun. It's not a world beater, but if you play a lot of American tanks, it should be a gun that you're pretty familiar with, because this is an American gun, the 76mm gun M1A2, utilized by the T-21 American Tier 6 light tank, and also the main gun of the Sherman EZ-8, and if you so choose, the main gun on the Sherman Jumbo. So you're going to have used this gun quite a bit. You also use this gun on the T-20, the Tier 7 medium, in order to unlock the 90mm M3. So, again, American players should be pretty familiar with this gun. You also use this gun on the Hellcat, the Jackson, and the M10 Wolverine. So, again, it's definitely an American gun. Also, a point of interest, the turret on this is actually the turret from an M18 Hellcat. And even though this is Chinese, you can see the national symbol here, it's actually the Taiwanese. So this is technically Taiwan is China, but this is not the People's Republic of China. This is China. Taiwan. This is Taiwan, basically. I just thought that was kind of interesting. So anyway, back to the gun. 18.18 rounds per minute, which is a pretty good rate of fire. 115 average damage, pretty standard for a gun of this caliber. 0.4 accuracy, not the most accurate, but we'll work with it. And 2.1 second aiming time, which is pretty good. 128 penetration, though, pretty weak. 128 penetration, pretty weak. That's definitely the biggest drawback of this gun. Now, you can use premium shells and get 177 penetration. And I do have 12 premium rounds in this tank, but I try to avoid using prem shells ever, basically, because they're a crutch. Yeah. I use them when I have to, but I like to limit the amount that I have to use them by trying to actually play the game properly. So, I digress. Crew skills on this tank. This is the crew of my WZ-131, the Tier 7 Chinese light, which is really awesome, and I'm really enjoying playing. Unfortunately, the Type 64 has a dedicated radio operator. The 131 and the 132 do not. So this is a new radio operator that I got with the tank. But as you can see, the crew skills I have on everyone right now is just camouflage. I'm just trying to get everyone to 100% so that I can put 6 cents on my commander. Once I get 6 cents, I'm going to have camouflage on everyone. And then I'm not sure what I'm going to do after that. I'm either going to do mobility enhancement skills or I'm going to do repair, but probably mobility enhancement. Just because this is a mobility tank, so we need to buff our mobility. Repair is nice for like getting your tracks back on and stuff, but really, if you're taking that many hits in this tank, you're probably dead. So repair, I don't think is really going to be that helpful. Quick look at equipment fit. I've got medium caliber tank gun rammer just to get the shots out of this gun faster. I've got coated optics, and I have a camouflage net. The coated optics, this was not my idea. I really thought about using binocular telescopes, but I looked at Quickybaby's preview from this tank that he did on the test server, which I will link in the video description. And Quickybaby had originally put on binoculars, and then he switched to coated optics because he felt that the tank was in motion too much for binoculars to be useful. And I think that's probably true. And also, Quickybaby is a much better player of light tanks than I am, and I'm trying to use his higher skill and ability to learn from him. So I'm kind of copycatting the master. That's sort of what I'm doing here. So credit where credit is due. Coated optics, not my idea, Quickybaby's idea. Now, even though I just talked about how I'm copying the master, I went with a camouflage net over a third option because I just think that a camouflage net will be really useful. Even though this tank is in motion a lot, there are going to be games where I'm going to want to bush scout with it, and for that situation, I want a camouflage net. Quickybaby has the enhanced torsion bar class 3 suspension to improve track durability, and that is definitely a valid option, but I've chosen to go with a camouflage net. Lastly, quick note, I almost never run anything other than the holy trinity of consumables, but I've actually put in a removed speed governor on this tank. I think it's worth it to get yourself that extra 10% to engine power. So yeah, speed governors, there we go. Alright, well, we've been in the garage for a really long time, about almost 12 minutes. We've been talking about a lot of stuff, and it's past due for us to get this sucker into battle. So let's hop into the battle and let's take a look at what this Tier 6 light tank can do. Alrighty, well, we are in battle in the Type 64. Now, as you can see, like I said before, this is pretty favorable matchmaking for this tank. The enemy team only has 4 Tier 7s, one of which is an artillery, and the balance of the team is composed of Tier 6s, garnished with 4 Tier 5s, or 3 Tier 5s and a Tier 4 light at the bottom. Now, we're in a Tier 6 light tank, so, you know, it's not like we can just go mainline combatant here or anything, but being in a tank that's really intended as like a high-tier scout in a battle like this, we are pretty powerful. And you can see right there, right off the bat, I derp, and I thought for some reason I was at the north base, so I took a 90-degree left, and then I realized where I was, and I was like, I'm an idiot. So we're going to head off to scout the railroad track side, and we're about to get some sick air on this. You can see right there, we don't even break our tracks, so that was pretty legit. We got our speed governor on right now to help us haul. We got to get down there to where we can do our scouting. We're trying to get into the dip, and this is probably not something I would do in a high-tier battle, but in a battle like this, I feel like I can get away with it for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's less people that are going to one-hit kill me as I'm right here, and my other main reason is people tend to play not as smart in lower-tier battles because they're not as experienced. So in a high-tier battle, I would have expected somebody with a tank with the mobility and view range of a Hellcat to go into the bush right where I'm poking. And so the first time I poked there, the Hellcat would have shot me in the face. But the Hellcat didn't do that. He went down south. So I can continue to poke this ridge and spot. Also, I've got pretty good backup. I've got a Type 58, a KV-1S, a Panzer IV Schmalturm, a T-49, and a Panzer III-4. So I'm pretty well backed up. Also, I've got a Tier 7 artillery, who we can see is firing in support of me. So I'm pretty confident in this position right now. If I were in a high-tier battle, most of my friendly tanks would probably be backed by that T-49, and if the enemy tried to Zerg rush me over this ridgeline, I would almost certainly die, and the enemies would all be able to get into cover before my teammates could do anything about it. But in a battle with this kind of tier, you know, my teammates are all up in support. I've got a high DPM gun. I can hurt those guys pretty effectively. You know, it's just a lot less risk. So we can see the enemy team making their move, and at this point I decide it is my turn to engage the enemy. So we pop up, we engage the T-34 and we kill him. We light the T-1 Heavy on fire and he burns to death. Now the KV-1 is shooting at us, we're shooting back, but the KV-1 is obviously not got an upgraded gun, and he really doesn't have any idea what he's doing. So as soon as this Panzer IV Schmalturm engages him, I can poke again, because I know the KV-1S rather, will probably keep shooting the Panzer IV, and even if he doesn't, the two of us will DPM him down very quickly. So the south flank has been cleaned up, Speed Governor is turned back on, and it's time for me to get this sucker into battle. Time to locate these tank destroyers and artillery and kill them. And we found the enemy Panzer thingy, the Tier 7 one. I don't know what it's called. I can't pronounce the German nickname of it, like Steuer Emil or something. But anyway, we found it, and we are killing him. So we do a lot of damage to him. He turns to engage us, and our friendly tanks bump him off. We use our high mobility to avoid his fire. Now, I decide to go after the artillery. I can tell by the way the artillery is fleeing that he is almost certainly the only thing in the zero-line village, so I'm not even going to worry about the other guys. We easily juke the attempt for him to TD me, and we put the finishing blow into him as well. Now, none of these enemy tanks seem to know we're here, so we're going to oblige them with some fire up the butt. Put 2 into the Panther. Second shot at the Panther was actually aimed for the Cromwell, but oh well. Continuing to shoot the Cromwell as he makes a move for us. And after 3 shots at him, he decides he should probably advance at me through cover. Which I think is pretty funny, because the Cromwell in a lot of ways is a Tier 6 light tank killer. And I'm in a light tank, and he is in a light tank killer. And guess who comes out on top? I'll give you a hint. It is not the Cromwell. So, Cromwell dead. At this point, I'm a little upset because our team is capping the base, which is completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary! And it's just been happening so much lately that I decide to risk everything and go for that Su-85, and he ends up killing me right as the base capture completes. So, you know, we're winning 11-8. We've got the enemy completely enveloped. They're totally screwed. But, oh well, we capped the base. I guess that's almost as good as a real victory, right? Anyway, I digress. Let's take a look at some post-battle results. Alright, so we can see the post-battle results screen here. That was our first win of the day, so we got ×3 experience. So, 5,475 experience, not too shabby at all. 72,345 credits. Pretty awesome, really, for Tier 6 Premium. Tier 6 Premiums make more money than a regular Tier 6, but they are not the money makers like a Tier 8 Premium. Not even even a Tier 7 Premium would normally make a lot more money than the Type 64. But, we had a lot of impact in that battle. The matchmaking was incredibly generous, and so we smoked the enemy team. So let's take a look at a team score, and obviously World of Tanks Replays is bugging out with the Type 64 logo because it's not working. We can see that I actually did top damage in the match by a lot, 2649 damage, over 1,000 more than the next 2 closest guys in the match, which is kind of surprising. 4 kills, 1,217 unmodified experience, which is double the next closest guy on our team and triple the highest on the enemy team. So pretty awesome. We made a profit of 65,629. We only spent about 6,000 credits on this tank, and if we died completely, it probably would have only been a few hundred credits more. So very, very profitable. Because of the 5 times experience, we made an awful lot of exp, but with just a premium account and no special event, that still would have been 1825, which is pretty good. You can see that we fired 29 shots and 24 hit. We fired a lot on the move, so that's a pretty good hit ratio. Out of those hits, 25 penetrated, but in such a low-tier match as that for this tank, that's pretty much to be expected. Again, the damage was pretty incredible, 2649. I didn't realize I did that much damage. We only took 4 hits, and they all penetrated, and it almost killed us. Actually, it did kill us. What am I talking about? I died in that battle. So that just gives you an idea how flimsy this tank is. We were taking hits from a Cromwell, and those things do not do a lot of damage. And we took a hit from an Su-85, and again, they don't do a lot of damage. So you're not very tough in this tank. You die pretty easy. We detected 6 enemies. We damaged 7 more, and we killed 4. So in this battle, we were much more of an attacker, much more of a light attacker, and a lot less of a scout. We only did 420 assistance damage, which is really low. But with a litany of destruction like that, it's pretty obvious that I was playing a lot more of an attacker role and a lot less of a scout. But we still did our scouting duties, and it's just that I ended up then dealing most of the damage myself. So that was enough for our Mastery Badge Ace Tanker, which is kind of awesome because it was only my third game ever in the Type 64, but it was also a little bit of a letdown to get Ace Tanker in a battle like that. Basically, that was like getting a Super Cromwell or like a Super Easy 8 and going out and picking on a bunch of little kids, which is kind of not really very fair. There were only 3 tier 7s in the battle, and like the enemy team just got hopelessly outclassed. It was, I'll take the Ace Tanker, but I sort of would have felt a lot more of an accomplishment if I'd got it on a battle where it was like all tier 9s, or, there's a E50M chasing me and I detracked him and ran away and then an artillery hit him. That would have been like way more of an accomplishment. But, this was still a fun battle, and it was still, Ace Tanker on my third battle in a tank. So, not the most impressive matchup, but I'm not going to turn it down. Let's just put it like that. I'm not going to turn the Ace Tanker down. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that little look at the Type 64. Again, if you want to see a better look at this tank and some higher tier gameplay, check out Quickybaby's patch preview of this tank. The link will be in the description. Quickybaby is an excellent player. He's an amazing light tank driver. Much better than I am. He's got some great light tank battles out there on his YouTube channel, QuickybabyTV. So you should definitely check that out. If you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe, or comment, or all three, or none of the three. It's up to you. Anyway, guys, until next time, this is Captain Dorja on Captain Dorja's Armory. And just remember, you can never have enough big guns.